I will never forget the look in my boy's eyes that morning, the way they widened, then froze, just before the scream. It was the scream that pulled me out of the garage, wrench still in hand, heart slamming in my chest like a jackhammer. I sprinted into the driveway expecting a dog bite, maybe a car wreck, or some prank gone too far. What I saw instead made my stomach drop straight through the concrete. Karen, my HOA president, dressed in her usual over-the-top khaki vest and wide-brimmed visor, but this time she had a silver pistol in her hands. And she was aiming it at my 15-year-old son, Tyler. "Get on your knees," she barked, finger trembling over the trigger. "You don't belong here. I don't know who you are, but you're loitering, and I won't allow that near my house." Tyler stood frozen, backpack slipping from one shoulder, both palms raised. He had just come back from his early morning run around the block, like he always did before school. Still wearing the same hoodie and gym shorts I washed the night before. Still breathing hard from the jog. But now, that breath came in short, terrified gasps. "Mom," he whimpered, and that one word broke something inside me. "Drop it," I roared, louder than I've ever yelled in my life. Karen spun around, gun flinching sideways, but she didn't lower it. "He was trespassing," she shrieked. "There's been theft in this neighborhood, and I know who's behind it." "That's my son," I screamed. "That's my son, you insane lunatic. He lives here." Neighbors were already pouring out of their doors. Phones raised. Gasps. Someone shouted, "Call the cops," but I didn't have to, because one of them was already on the way. Unbeknownst to Karen, Tyler wasn't just any kid. He was the son of Deputy Sheriff Marcus Lane, my husband. And he was coming home early that morning after a night shift because it was Tyler's birthday. Karen didn't see the unmarked SUV pull up behind her until it was too late. The moment Marcus stepped out of the vehicle, badge clipped to his belt, hand resting on his own holstered sidearm, the air changed. "Ma'am," he said, voice low and lethal. "Drop the weapon. Right now." Karen's face contorted, veins bulging. "This doesn't concern you. He's a criminal, is dangerous, fits the profile." "What profile is that, Karen?" Marcus growled, stepping between her and Tyler. "The one that includes a 15-year-old boy wearing his high school track team's hoodie, with his own name embroidered on the sleeve?" She blinked, confused. "Karen Hastings," Marcus continued, "you are under arrest for felony assault with a deadly weapon, unlawful brandishing, and endangering a minor." The gun slipped from her fingers and hit the ground with a soft metallic clink. That was the moment she realized she was no longer the queen of the cul-de-sac. He cuffed her right there, in full view of everyone. I saw the neighbors filming, mouths open, some shaking their heads. Tyler stood beside me, still breathing hard, tears in his eyes. I pulled him into my arms and held him so tightly he could barely move. "You're gonna be okay," I whispered. "She's never coming near you again." That would have been enough. That alone would have been justice. But it didn't end there. 2 hours later, as we sat inside giving our statements, I found something chilling. On Nextdoor, Karen had posted 3 days prior. "Suspicious youth seen circling the block in a hoodied vigilant. I will handle it if law enforcement won't." With a photo, a blurred one, taken from across the street, of Tyler, running. She knew. She knew who he was. And she still did it. I showed Marcus. His jaw clenched, his hands curled into fists, and he quietly said, "We're pressing for hate crime enhancement." Then came the twist we never expected. Karen had been using HOA Dues Our Money To fund a private neighborhood watch group made up of ex-military hotheads and weekend gun nuts. All under the radar. All undocumented. All operating as if they had legal jurisdiction. One of them, an unlicensed security consultant named Brian Walker, had texted her the night before. "Want me to run surveillance on the Lane kid? He's been circling again." They weren't just paranoid. They were organized. Marcus turned everything over to internal affairs. And because HOA security is not law enforcement, it turned into a massive scandal that went way beyond our neighborhood. Karen's phone was confiscated. So was her laptop. Emails revealed a deeply disturbing thread of racist profiling and targeted harassment of several families, including ours. She had compiled a private watch list of teenagers who dressed urban, loitered too long, or played loud music, all of them children of color. And she didn't act alone. The next board meeting exploded. 2 members resigned on the spot. One tried to deny everything, only for a mother in the crowd to stand and say, You fined my son for parking too close to your house after you said he doesn't belong here. You knew what you were doing. It became a reckoning, not just for Karen, but for everyone who enabled her, stayed quiet, or let the intimidation pass unchecked. The news picked it up by the next morning. HOA president arrested for pulling gun on deputy's son, flashed across every local TV screen and phone in the county. The footage shaky but clear off Karen being cuffed while trying to scream something about community safety spread like wildfire. The video Tyler's classmate had posted on TikTok passed 1.2 million views before noon. The comment sections were brutal, but it was the second video posted by our neighbor's Ring camera that shattered everything. In the hours before the confrontation, Karen had stood in front of her house with two of her self-appointed watchmen, pointing at homes on our street, gesturing at the direction Tyler usually ran. Her voice was loud enough to catch in the audio. If the cops won't do their job, we'll just have to scare them straight. I know where that kid lives. I know his patterns. I'm not afraid to act. By that weekend, not a single person in the neighborhood could say they didn't know the truth. The sheriff's office held a press conference that Sunday. Marcus didn't speak, chose not to be part of it professionally, but he stood behind the district attorney, arms crossed, expression unreadable. The DA confirmed Karen Hastings was being formally charged with felony assault with a deadly weapon, child endangerment, conspiracy to intimidate, and unauthorized militia activity. They also confirmed the hate crime enhancement was in motion. When asked if this incident had revealed systemic bias within HOA enforcement structures, the DA answered plainly, "This is not just about one person. This is about what happens when power is abused under the guise of community order. That ends now." And it did. By Monday, our HOA was dismantled entirely. Brent, the same board member who once shrugged off our concerns, resigned publicly and apologized to every family Karen had targeted. He revealed that Karen had changed bylaws without Democratic votes, redirected funds to her private safety initiatives, and installed illegal surveillance on 4 properties, ours included. I didn't cry when I saw the footage from our own trees. I didn't scream when I saw that Karen had zoomed in on my son's face from over 200 feet away. I just nodded and kept breathing, because I knew we weren't the only ones, and we weren't going to be silent. A class action suit formed by 11 families followed. I testified in court 3 months later, sitting across from Karen as she sat in a wrinkled gray suit, wrists resting on the table, eyes downcast. Not a shred of her old swagger remained. No visor, no clipboard, no followers. Only the weight of consequence. Tyler testified too. He stood straight, voice shaking just a little at first, then stronger, clearer, like the young man he was becoming. She saw me and didn't see her neighbor. She saw what she wanted to fear, and I want to know why my safety mattered less than her assumptions. The room fell silent. One juror wiped their eye. Karen refused to answer questions. In the end, the jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Sentencing came a month later. 5 years in state prison, no chance of early parole. An additional ruling banned her from holding any position of authority in neighborhood organizations for life. And the civil suit? That settled quickly. HOA funds were frozen and redistributed to the families she'd harmed. The rest came out of her own assets: house, car, retirement savings. She had to sell her home. Nobody wanted to buy it. Word had spread far beyond our town. Her name became shorthand for suburban corruption. But the story didn't end there. Because Tyler didn't just want to move forward. He started a podcast called The Front Yard Files, where he invited teens from all over the country to share stories of HOA overreach, neighborhood profiling, and standing up for their rights. One episode went viral when a boy in Georgia described being fined for parking his beat-up pickup outside his house only for the HOA president's nephew to cruise the same block with lifted wheels and 0 warnings. By senior year, Tyler had applied for and received a youth leadership grant from the state. He started organizing workshops with local police departments and community leaders to train HOA boards on actual law versus imagined authority. And the very trail he used to run on, the one where Karen once aimed a weapon at him, was renamed by the city council Laneway, in honor of a young man whose strength in the face of fear inspired a community to change. We held the sign dedication on a crisp fall morning. Marcus stood beside Tyler, and this time, it was my husband wiping tears away as our boy smiled for the cameras. People brought baked goods. Kids rode their bikes. The mayor gave a speech about healing, about how our neighborhoods don't need more watchers, they need more neighbors. I looked around and saw a block finally breathing freely. No more posted signs about codes. No more hushed warnings about what you wore or who came over. Just laughter. Just trust. As for Karen, last we heard, she'd been denied appeal. The prison she's in doesn't allow her to hold any administrative roles, which is probably for the best. They say she still insists it was all a misunderstanding, that she was just doing her job. But we know better, because justice didn't come through shouting. It didn't come through violence. It came because we stood tall, told the truth, and refused to be bullied by fear disguised as order. Now, I want to ask you, if someone pointed a weapon at your child over nothing but a hoodie and a sidewalk, would you have stayed quiet? Or would you have fought like we did? Let me know, is this justice, or did we go too far?